What's up and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about how raid bosses actually became invincible in Borderlands 2. So if you're not aware, we've got 10 different raid boss fights in the game, including Hyperius, Vermivorous, Deciduous, Terramorphous, Pyropete, the Ancient Dragons, Son of Cromrax, Master Yi, and the two that we're going to be focusing on here today. So before we get to the timeline of the story, we're going to have to briefly dip our toes into the past of the earlier days of Borderlands 2. Before the occurrence we're about to talk about, minus Hyperius, the 9 raid bosses were all nice and balanced, and at least killable at your max difficulty. OP8, that is. Well, sure, Deciduous was always a long-ass kill, and to be honest, a pretty dreadful fight. He's still beatable even today on OP10. All of the others are still difficult, but with enough time and effort spent on learning the mechanics and patterns of them, you could defeat them, and sometimes easily defeat the raid bosses. While this is still achievable till this very day, there are two that stand completely alone when it comes to today's Borderlands 2. Hyperius and Voracidous. On June 9th, 2019, leading into the long-anticipated Borderlands 3, we saw the final DLC release for the legendary BL2. That being the Commander Lilith Fight for Sanctuary, a DLC that's become very controversial in a lot of different ways, with some really enjoying what it adds and others saying it really hurts the endgame more than it did help, as it introduced the level cap of 80 instead of the initial 72, and instead of OP8, players are now given the option to get to overpowered level 10, which at first, I was pumped about that. Not so much about having to go refarm my gear at the time, but the extra levels isn't what we're focused on here today. And the Commander Lilith DLC has been broken apart in the past, so I think we need to look at the bigger issue it's brought to the current iteration of the Borderlands 2 endgame. The health of Voracidous and Hyperius has been doubled in OP10 to over 1 billion health. And this has brought a major issue to the way we play Borderlands 2. Why, you might ask? Well, unless you use some sort of glitch, bug, cheat if that's the way you want to go, then you cannot kill these bosses on OP10 the way the game is intended to play. While Voracidous was always a pain in the ass, even back on OP8, he's now actually become unkillable, which sucks as he's the only way to farm the Interfacer shotgun, a very powerful Seraph item which is one of the best shotguns in the entire game. So now, without cheese methods, you literally cannot farm an Interfacer on OP10, which fucking sucks, as a lot of players love this shotgun and not having a rewarding way to get it is just a damper on the end game at the end of the day. Keep in mind that this is my favorite game of all time. That doesn't mean it's flawless. And one of the biggest flaws is what we're talking about here today, because not only is Vora completely pointless at max level, but so is Hyperius. While there are a couple of legit ways to take him down, they all tiptoe the lines of cheese or ridiculous setups that make him annoying to farm. This one is arguably even more detrimental, as Hyperius is one of the only farms for the Norfleet rocket launcher, which is the best in slot rocket launcher for Borderlands 2, with your only other farming method coming from a raid boss known as Hyperius the Invincible, who we just refer to as Vermi, who's not only a pretty difficult spawn with 4 players in your game, but it's really difficult in solo, with him being a rare spawn from leveling up Barkids. So most players would just go for Hyperius if they wanted a Norfleet, but since he's completely busted these days, actually becoming one of the hardest fights in the series on OP10, despite him being a very simple raid boss, all things considered. Nowadays, he's annoying, and it makes you want to just avoid him at max level because it's going to end up with a controller through the wall or an Xbox getting shot with a gun.
This is really fucking immature! This has to happen! That's an expected. Now it's done!
Whatever the case may be, it's not a great time on OP10, which is why a lot of players choose to just avoid the OP levels and stick to level 80, which I enjoy the max difficulty setting in my Borderlands. I can't say I blame them. And if you do like the challenge of OP levels, but you still want to farm your raid bosses, you could always stop at the initial max level for many years, which was OP level 8. Like I said, I'd rather go to the max, but Borderlands 2 at least gives you that option. I can remember being so excited when this DLC released, downloading it as quick as I possibly could, since it was free for a little bit on release, with it now being $15, which kinda sucks if you're wanting to get an old friend back into the game, and then you gotta tell them to go spend 15 bucks on this junk. And while I don't hate this DLC overall, I hate what it did to these raid bosses, and even I can remember after I hit the new max level, getting so pissed off facing Vora on OP10, even with Sal for the first time. While I didn't know the health was bugged at the time, I just kept trying to kill him, over and over and over again, dying time after time after time. A little over a year ago, I was informed that his health alongside Hyperius's have been bugged in OP10 since the launch of this DLC, and still to this very day, it remains an issue in the in-game loop. You would think that after all these years, somebody would have went and just adjusted the health by now. There's no way in hell it's that difficult either, so don't even give me that. And I'm not saying I expect it to be changed now, as I know Gearbox's track record with supporting their older games. There's no telling if it'll ever be fixed, but the fact that they've been this way since 2019, and we're now here in 2024 with it still not being fixed, I highly doubt we will ever see the health adjusted to its proper numbers, especially with it still broke to this very day. Even though it would probably be as simple as changing some numbers in the code, the developers will likely never put out another patch for their older Lands games. It sucks as a huge fan of this game, but hey, not everything in life is going to be sunshine and rainbows. And that same thing goes for video games. Me personally, I don't think there's much of an excuse for this not being fixed. But then again, this was leading into Borderlands 3, where development on anything Borderlands related really started to suffer in quality or lack of support. The reason this is so important is with the upcoming Borderlands 4 being in the works, issues like these need to be on the team's mind, and fixing problems the players have with the game. Doing this will always keep more players engaged while simultaneously helping the player count stay up. But even though some of the best raid bosses still remain unfunctional, now you know the story of how raid bosses actually became invincible in Borderlands 2. Without some sort of ridiculous setup, you just can't kill them, and these bosses have been completely glitched and broken since 2019. And sadly, this is how it looks to be for the rest of Borderlands 2's lifetime. But that's going to do it for me today, guys. What are your thoughts on the raid bosses that actually became invincible? Do you think that they should have been fixed? Because I know I sure as shit do. I still to this day think there's no excuse for them not going in and just adjusting the health. But regardless, I'd love to hear what you guys think down in the comments below. I want to thank you all for watching this video in its entirety. And if you did enjoy it, please smash a like on it and subscribe if you guys are new. I love you all to death. I'm posting new Borderlands videos every week and keeping you guys updated on all things Borderlands 4 related, Borderlands movie, and even the upcoming Wonderlands 2, which is obviously far away, thank the Lord. But any news we do end up getting, please be sure to subscribe, because I'll be one of the first ones to give you the real honest scoop. But that's pretty much it, guys. I love you all to death. Please take it easy out there, stay safe, and with that, I will see you all in the next one.